In my last diesel heater video, I mentioned that this was the king of all Chinese affordable diesel heaters on the market. And as it has proven to be a really great heat source, Hcalory has since challenged that not only is this heater the one, but all of their line of heaters are. So in today's video, I'm going to be comparing this heater that I really love with another heater also offered by Hcalory. And at the end of this video, I'll give you guys my final thoughts. So let's get it unboxed. So far, I think the packaging looks pretty good in quality. They've got this thing nicely packaged. And here's the handle for the heater. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull it out of the box. All right, so I have the new heater on the table, and I just wanted to give you guys my first impressions on it. It looks really awesome. It's a bit bulky, more bulkier, I'd say, than this one as far as height. Not as wide, so I'm concerned with how well the footing is, but it does seem to be pretty stable, and we don't have to modify anything as far as that goes. We do have to add the tank, so it looks like we're gonna have to end up bolting it up and possibly even hooking up some fuel lines. As far as the top, the handle, I like how it folds down, so when you're packing it in a Jeep, it can just easily pack with other items. It's more like rectangular shape. With it being all plastic, my biggest concern is if it's the same material type as the plastic around the heater itself. There's some ventilation in this briefcase, so it doesn't make it like waterproof or anything. On the front here, we have a bolt pattern, several bolt patterns for different sizes of tanks. And I actually like that option because if you were one of those who didn't want to use this or any of the other tanks that you could possibly bolt to the side of this, you could also use your own style tank, like if you had a Rotopax or if you had one of those, you know, really big industrial 55-gallon drums, one of those bulky tanks that you wanted to hook up to this. Maybe you're heating up a garage or some kind of shed. That would be awesome because you just literally plug in a fuel line and this is your heat source. So moving it to the other side, there's not much going on here. As far as the front, just the Hcalory logo. On the front here, you have your inlet right next to your main controller. The control face looks really good. Below the main controller, we have the wireless remote. Just go ahead and unhook that right there. That's what it looks like. And then on to the left here, we have the power connection for 12 volts DC, and it's not the IEC connector like on the other one, so that's a plus. And then we have the fuel inlet nipple and then the air intake, which I really like this being on the same side as the fresh air inlet for your heated space. I really like that because it's on the opposite side of your fresh air inlet is the exhaust. Try to point that exhaust downwind if possible. And then you have your hot air duct, so you can duct out the hot air, you know, to your tent or your heated space. So I really like that being on the same side as all your heat on one side and all your inlet air on the other. It makes things a lot simpler to understand and to work with. So I'm gonna get ready to open this thing up. You got some plastic latches. Those seem of pretty good quality. And I'm gonna go ahead and just open up the lid here and see what we got. So inside the heater's enclosure, we have the user manual, which Hcalory is actually known for their great user manuals. They are legible and you can pretty much understand them. So good on the user manual. We also have our power connection cable for a battery that has 2 lugs for a battery. It also has a fuse, which is very nice. The other heater on the right here did not come with a fuse. I had to install one, 20 amp protection there. And the wires and the insulation do feel of quality, as well as the end connector, which is not the IEC. This one actually is the same as my refrigerator, which already comes with a 12 volt cigarette lighter socket on the end. So I might end up just using the cable for my refrigerator. Moving along, we have this plastic flange here. This goes on the end of the ducting. You've got this green fuel line right here. A lot of people think it's junk. I actually have been using this stuff on my older diesel heater, the first one I ever had, and it's been about almost 2 years now, and it's far exceeded my expectations. I haven't had any issues with it, but if you want to upgrade that, I mean, you get a lot of it. So if you wanted to upgrade that, you can definitely do that. And then moving along, we've got our 3-inch ducting here. We have the Inlet, lots of flex tube for your inlet air for the heater. And then inside of the 3-inch ducting, we have the flex exhaust. Probably won't end up using this, and I'll explain to you why here in a minute. And then we also have our hard aluminum 3-inch ducting, which I really like this stuff. The other heater onto the right here actually didn't come with this, so that's actually a benefit to buying this heater over the other one, is you get the 3-inch duct with it. Inside here on the exhaust, we have an inlet air filter. We have a hardware kit here, and back here we have our exhaust, or silencer if you will. You've got your fuel pump right here. This one comes with a fuel filter and some really nice clamps. Comparing it to the heater on the right, it didn't even come with a fuel filter. We have a isolator bushing style mount for the fuel pump. That's good for vibrations and whatnot, and it's actually mounted at that angle, perfect angle for fuel. Heat wrap around your exhaust that comes out to the front. I really like how it's wrapped up like this. Overall, the build quality here is looking really good. And then of course you have your heater. Now this is a 5 kilowatt heater, and comparing to the other heater we have here on the right, that one is between a 5 kilowatt and 8 kilowatt heater. So it might put out a little bit more heat than this one, but overall, if they are from the same manufacturer, I think that they're a pretty decent heater and they should be of the same build quality. And lastly, the feature I love the most about the heater on the left is you have a bunch of empty space underneath the heater that allows you to store your setup materials like your ducting, carbon monoxide detector, your cabling, and everything you need to set up the heater. Whereas the one on the right, I have to carry around a separate container to store all of the setup items. There is a trade-off. The one on the right, you have your fuel tank inside of the enclosure, whereas this one is now on the outside. So like on the other heater, you have a 6-liter tank. This one is a 5-liter, a little bit smaller, and we will have to do some modifications to it as far as installing the nipple that goes on the bottom of the tank. So I'm just gonna drill it right here. Take a 5/16 drill bit, and I'm gonna take my knife here and just kind of deburr around the edges of the hole. That looks pretty good. The next thing I'm going to do is take some of this string and I'm going to feed it through the hole, and I'm going to try to catch it from the other side. There it is. You're going to want to add one of your O-rings to the shoulder of that nipple, and then go ahead and thread your string. Drop it into the tank. Just hold the string by the cap and then pull on the other end, and then grab it with your fingers, and then you could just thread it through the hole like that, and then you could pull your string out. Pretty nice. Go ahead and add your O-ring and then your nut. Now you can decide if you want to hand tight it. Just make sure it's pretty snug. On the back of the gas tank, there's some knockouts. Go ahead and just take your razor and kind of cut out these little pieces. So I put the bolts in, and we'll just go ahead and set it up to the bolt holes and get this thing bolted up to the side here. The fuel tank is pretty secure, and I just took an 11-inch piece of that tubing and pushed it on to both of these nipples to make the connection. And now we just need to add some diesel and we can start this thing up. Okay, so this is how they want you to set it up per the manufacturer, and as you can see, this is not gonna work. It's not really practical. I don't like the exhaust pointed up. I like it pointed down. It would take too long to set it up, and I'm gonna show you how I would rather have it set up, so I'll modify it to my liking. Now the first thing on this air filter, I did notice that it has a foam insert inside, and it doesn't really do anything because there's a hole that goes right through the air filter. So I'm going to take that out only because these are known to, degrade and fail. And you don't want particles or anything inside your heater that could damage it in the long run. So there you have it. I have it set up to my liking. I think it's much more convenient. You just add your exhaust silencer to the edge here, and you have your thread-on air filter for the intake of the heater. One thing I did want to note is I did add exactly 1 gallon to this 5-liter tank, so it's full, and it is kind of top heavy now. So it kind of leans. If it were to barely get pushed to this direction, it will tip over. And now considering that compared to the other heater, we don't have that issue. If you put a larger fuel tank on this side, it will definitely be more tippy, but maybe it will kind of rest on the floor, or the floor here, where it would be much wider, so it wouldn't be as tippy. That is of concern for me, and I probably will throw a bungee cord or a strap over it anytime I have this in use. So I did want to mention that compared to the other heater. So I'm getting ready to get this thing all started up. We'll go ahead and test it up. I have my battery right here on the left, and I have an inline watt meter, so I'll also be displaying the watts and amps and all the voltages going along with that as we run the heater. And then I did end up modifying the cable that came with the heater with a 12-volt cigarette lighter socket. So all that worked out. Let's get this thing started up. So when you go to start these heaters up for the very first time, you're going to want to do a fuel priming procedure. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is plug the heater into a power source and let the main LCD screen boot up. So it's going to boot up for a couple seconds and then go away. On the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there is a fuel pump button. Go ahead and press that for about 5 to 6 seconds. There you have the fuel pump just turned on, and it's actually going to be pulling fuel from the tank through the fuel filter and up to the heater. So we have fuel at the ignition source when the heater is first start up for the very first time. So it only takes about 30 seconds to really do this procedure, but they give you 300 seconds and then it'll automatically shut off. Now I've already got fuel all the way up to the heater. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the fuel pumping prime procedure.
Stop heating. Thanks for using. I wish you a safe journey.
And now we have some audible feedback saying that it shut off. When you turn the power on,
Start heating.
there's no actual way to change the Celsius to Fahrenheit, whereas on the other heater you can. So I'm going to hold the gear for 3 seconds, and we're going to rotate the knob here. Now for F8, we're going to go ahead and make sure that the Bluetooth is on so I can talk to the controller from my wireless app on the phone. So I just want to make sure it's on, and then we're good. We can get out of here. Now I find the Bluetooth app on my smartphone to be most convenient for controlling the heater. You get live feedback and data from the app, and I'll show you quickly how to get it set up on either your Android or iOS phone. So you're going to want to go ahead and open up your camera and point it at either the Android or iOS barcode, open up the link, and then it'll take you to download the application. Go ahead and download it, and then once that's done, go into your settings and toggle on the Bluetooth for the device. Then you can go back and click into the app. Once the app is on, it will scan, and as you can see, it's quickly found the heater on the app. So we're paired up. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the diesel heater. Go ahead and push to turn on the heater for about 2 to 3 seconds.
Start heating.
So now you can hear that we have some audible feedback from the controller. Now there are 2 modes of control. The first mode is level control, and the second one is temperature control. Now the main differences are the location of the heater. So for level control, your heater is going to be outside, where you're not going to be using a thermostat. You're just going to decide what controls or how much heat you want to output from the heater. And you would just easily toggle up or down the run level. So 10 would be max and 1 would be low on the heater's output. Now for the temperature control mode, that is going to be a mode where typically the heater would be inside the heated space, like your shop, shed, or some kind of garage that you're heating, and the thermostat, which is built into the controller, will monitor the inside temperature and basically automatically adjust the heater to a temperature that you set. Go ahead and push to turn on the heater for about 2 to 3 seconds.
Start heating.
Alright, so I just turned on the heater. I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps on how these work if you're not familiar with them. So right now we are just heating up the glow plug, ready to ignite the diesel fuel and start the burning process. So the fuel pump just now kicked on. I'm going to go ahead and go over to the app and toggle up to high mode or max mode, level 10. And you can start hearing this thing really start to ramp up and put out some heat. Let's see where we're at. So I got some air coming out of the output here. It's a little warm, not hot. Exhaust is really hot. And I do smell some unburnt fuels, so it is burning up a little bit rich. They're kicked into an even higher gear. So we'll come back in about 5 minutes and see how it's doing. Alright, so we've been running for about 7 minutes now, and I did want to give you guys an update on some heat output. So right here we've got 150 degrees on the output, and right here we've got 100, almost 250 on the output on the exhaust. Just checking the enclosure, I just want to make sure that we're not real hot around the enclosure. Somewhere around 115 degrees around here. Output 150. Now inside the enclosure we have 350 on the heat shield here for the exhaust. And it's definitely kicking ass. There is a lot of heat coming out of the front now, especially on the exhaust side. There is heat in the enclosure, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's open and there is ventilation. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn the level down to about level 1, and we'll get an amp reading on the lowest setting. We should start to hear this heater start to ramp way down, and there it goes. It's been about 45 minutes on level 1, just running it, and we're going to take some measurements and just see how hot everything is running. So I'm going to turn on my heat sensor here, and right here we're at about, on the edge of that exhaust, we're about 170, and right here we are at about 115. 115 is fair. Now inside on the heat wrap, we're at about 280. On the intake side, we're at about 75. And overall, the heater is running at about 75 as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into my phone app, and we'll just go ahead and bump it all the way up to max temp, just to hear this thing throttle back up and get the max output of heat coming out of it. The fuel pump is starting to ramp up, fan speed's ramping up, and we're definitely getting a lot more heat coming out of this heater. So I'm gonna let that happen for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get into the shutdown cycle. Go ahead and hold the button down. We can hear that the fuel pump stopped running. The fan speed actually dropped to a lower fan speed. The machine is definitely reduced to a lower output. Now if we look over at the amps on the amp reader, the amps went up. That's because the glow plug is going to burn off any unburnt fuel. So right now the amps dropped down to about 0.35, and it's just the fan that's remained on. It may pick back up just to get any of that excess heat off the heat exchanger, and then it should be safe to turn off once we get the audible feedback and the fan has completely turned off.
Thanks for using. I wish you a safe journey.
So there it is, audible feedback saying that it is completely shut down and we can now safely remove the power from the heater. So there it is, all set up and ready to take camping. I'm really excited to take this on my next camping trip. I do like this heater. If I had to choose between the two, it would be a hard decision, but I think I still would rather pick the one on the left over the right. Other than that, I do think that the heaters are of the same quality. They'll put out the same heat. This thing really does put out a lot of heat. They're basically the same heaters, just packaged a little bit differently, if you will. I did want to mention that I'll leave all the links in the description box below. You can find any of these heaters. This one comes in at retails about $160. There is a $30 coupon on this heater that you can use at checkout, as well as a promo code. I'll leave all that in the description box below. The next thing that's going to happen is on the 31st of this month, Hcalory wants to do a 2-heater giveaway. They want to give 2 of these away to the viewers. And there's going to be some rules on how to do that and participate. If you are interested, go ahead and head over to the Instagram page. We're going to leave a poster up on how you can do it. But this Sunday, the video for this will go out, and then I'll kind of release slowly all the information on how the giveaway is going to work. So I really, guys, appreciate you guys for coming this far in the video, and we will see you guys out camping on the trail. Have a good day. We'll see you soon.